Today we're going to be looking at file writing in Python. More specifically, we're going to be making a text file using our Python programming. We're going to look at the different modes that you can open it in, including the write mode, append mode, and read mode, and how we can use them all. File writing is a nice technique that we can actually use to store things permanently that were done in our Python program. Once a Python program finishes, your variables will disappear. So let's say that you've done a text-based game and you've got a high score. Well, at the end of your game, that high score will be gone. So what you might want to do is write it into a file. That way, when you start the game again, you can read from that file, so you've got all your stored high scores and you'll be able to display, say, a high score. Another reason we might use file writing is if a user has inputted something, maybe it's like an entry form to enter their name or something like that, you can store that kind of information in a file as well, so you can read that in when you run the program again in future. So here we have our little program which is going to do some file writing. I'm going to talk you through line by line so you know exactly what's going on here. So to begin with, we've got file equals open, and then we can choose the name of the text file that we're going to be looking at. So this one I've got inside speech marks, I've got fruit.txt. And then you can see we do a little comma, and inside another set of speech marks is the mode that you're going to open this file in. Now I've gone for a W, which means it's going to open it in write mode. And if the file doesn't exist, it's actually going to create the file for me. If it already does exist, it's actually going to overwrite everything inside it. So that's important to keep in mind if you're going to use the W in write mode. So just to prove that it doesn't currently exist, here is the folder that I'm currently working in, because when I run this code, this is where it's going to create it. So we've got some more lines of code underneath it. We've got file.write. Now what that's going to do is it's going to put this string inside the file. And you might have noticed that inside the speech marks, we've got \n. Now what that does is it puts the string onto a new line. Otherwise, it will just look like everything's concatenated, even if it's on the line below like this one is here. So the first string it's going to write to the file is going to say, I love apples. And then on the new line, it's then going to say underneath it, I also love oranges. Once you've finished writing to your file, it's always good practice to do file.close and then open close brackets. So at this point, I'm going to run the code and let's see what happens. So it appears on the shell and it looks like nothing has happened. But if I just close that and then go onto the file, you can see we've got this text file now that's existing called fruit, like it was named here in the Python program. And if I just double click on that so we can look at it, you can see, I don't know how well you can see, let's zoom in a little bit. You can see I love apples, I also love oranges on the next line down. For the next example, we're going to look at file writing but in append mode. Now when you append something, it means it adds it onto the end of it. And the mode that we've changed it to, you can see we've got a little A inside the speech marks now this time instead. So like before, I'm going to use file.write, and I've put the \n at the beginning this time because we've already got existing strings, so it'll just put this onto a new line. And this string is going to say, come to think of it, I love grapes too. And because I'm finished what I'm doing with it, I'm going to do file.close. Let's run this code and see what happens. So again, the shell appeared. It looks like nothing's happened, but if I just close that, double click on my text file, you can see it says, I love apples, I also love oranges. Come to think of it, I love grapes too on the next line down. So now that we've got our text file and we've got 3 strings that are stored in there, I'm going to show you how you can read from a text file. So to do this time, we're going to put an R in our mode part of it. So R is for read mode. So we're going to use print, which is to display something which we've used before. But you can see after that, we're going to use readline, open close brackets. And then we've got another set of brackets because that's for print. Now when we use readline, each time we use it, it actually automatically goes to the next string along in the file itself. So I've used 2 print lines so we can see it's going to do the first string and then it will automatically do the second string because I put it on the line below. So let's run our code and see. So we've got I love apples, I also love oranges, and they've been read directly from the text file. Important point to make that when you finish reading from it and when you're finished handling your file, you're then going to use file.close again with open close brackets to say that you finished with that operation. A final technique that we're going to look at is very similar to the last one, but instead of doing line by line, what we're going to actually do is read all of the information at once using the technique called readlines with an S on the end. Now this is a little different this time because what it's going to do, it's actually going to store it in a list. And we've looked at lists before. It's where you've got one variable that stores multiple pieces of data. So we've called our variable lines, and then I've done file.readline so that it puts all of that information that was in the text file into a list. So just below it, I've got a print line, and I've said whatever is in this list called lines, I'm going to print whatever is in index 2. Remember, it's a 0-based index, so it'll do what's in position 0 first, then 1, then 2. So let's run this code and see what happens. So straight away, it's gone to say, come to think of it, I love grapes too. And that was because it was the third line down in the text file, so 0, 1, 2, which is the third line down. If I just delete the 2 in the brackets, let's run it one more time, and you can see what happens, and it'll display it like it does when we just print a list. These are all the items that are in the list because this is what it's read from the text file itself. And that's it for this one. I'll see you next time.